there, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. My Seattle sewing and upcycling retreat was just so much fun. I loved hanging out with 10 like-minded people who loved thrift shopping and upcycling, and we just had a blast. And now one of my favorite ideas that came out of that was Susan's black jeans that she inserted the camo insert into. I just thought those were the coolest things. And I told her right off the start, like, I am definitely making those and making a video about them because I just thought that just looks fantastic. I love that look for her. And I think I'm gonna like it for me too. So immediately when I got back to Vancouver, I hit the thrift stores and I easily found some skinny black jeans. Those are super easy to thrift these days. And they're fine, they fit well, but they're just super skinny. And I'm just like over that. So then I had to keep thrifting, and it was a little bit harder to find a good pair of camo cargo pants. I really wanted the cargo pocket. So that took me a couple trips to the thrift stores to find. These ones fit okay, but it didn't even matter if they fit. I didn't even try them on or anything until right now because I'm just going to be using a panel out of these pants. They can be too big, too small. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to be taking an insert from here, putting it into the black jeans, and then reusing the cargo pocket on top of the whole effect. So I think that'll be a really nice quick one, and I think they're going to be dynamite. So I'm excited about that. The hardest part of the whole project is the stitch removal. Taking off that cargo pocket is sometimes like heavily reinforced. I remember Susan fighting with those little bar tacks and struggling and making tiny holes, and that was the worst part. Once she got the pocket off, she was on easy street from there, and it just went beautifully. So I'm going to jump into that, stitch pick the flap and the pocket off because I don't want to use it as is. You'll see what I mean of why it needs to come off. So I'm going to do that stitch removal on the pocket, and then we'll come right back to the cutting table. So let's get busy. So this is the new cutting mat I got at Quality Sewing while I was in Seattle. The brand name is Quilter Select, and I just love it. I love this. Look. It's two-sided. I really like having that lighter side to work on too. This is like my new fun tool. I also got the ruler from Quilter Select, which has like a rubbery surface on one side, so it sticks, and it's just so incredibly accurate to the mat. So to start my stitch removal, there's this line of stitching that goes around the top, and that's made to look like a reinforcement for the flap, but it's not at all. Look, it looks like they've sewn an extra piece of fabric in there, but they haven't. They just stitched around, and it's just decorative. Like, it makes no difference to the strength of this. So don't be daunted if you see something like that. It's like meaningless. So can you see this long bar tack there? That's the miserable part. So I just get the blade of my seam ripper underneath there and just try to get as much of that as possible. It's important to have a good sharp seam ripper for something like this. I love this clover one. And then on the inside too, you can get into that bar tack. Get as much of it in one go as you can. So wherever I can, I'll put my blade in between the layers of the flap, so that if I do accidentally make a little hole, it's going to be on the inside of the flap rather than putting my blade over here where I might make a hole in the actual pant leg. If I stick the red ball down, that can make it a little safer as well. But basically, you are just struggling a little for those bar tacks. The other little tool that I do love for this kind of stitch removal is this. This is the Precision Quilting Tools little magnified light. And I'll see if I can show you the difference that it makes. So I can sit there at the kitchen table with my little magnifier, and it does help me so much to have this. I saw some of these for sale at Quality Sewing too. For any of these tools, you can look at the Quality Sewing website. I'll leave my affiliate link if you want to support my channel while you're finding some really great sewing tools. And for a limited time, you can use the code CS10 to get 10% off any purchase there on any machine or any of these tools. So check that out. So I'll sit and pick the rest of that pocket. I'll also be opening up most of the side seam of the black jeans. And that looks like it's a little chain. So if I find the right end of the chain, that should come out pretty easily. So I want to open that up about to the hip. Or you know what, here, where that heavy top stitch is, if you can see that, I'll go to a couple inches below that. There we go. Once you find it, it's just like a little gift from heaven. That is satisfying. And then the serging, this looks like, yeah, it's just a 3-thread serge. So I'm just going to find the little stitch that's holding down the loops, not the loop itself, but the little stitch that's holding down the loop. Try to pull enough of it that I get a little tail, and then start pulling that tail, and it's going to break. And then I'll just have to pick it up a little further down. Sometimes you get a good pull on that needle thread, but once you have the needle thread off, then the rest of the serging just comes off. So not too bad. I'll sit and pick that and come right back. Good, so I've removed the pockets and the flaps, and it really wasn't that bad. Once you're through the bar tacks, it's not too bad at all. I've also opened up both sides of the black jeans, and again, not too bad. I'm just going to measure the length of the opening that I want. If I want it to come within a couple inches of that top stitch section. So that's about 29 inches plus a bit for the hem. Now, you can see where the pocket was, and there's also in these jeans, there's sort of a dart in the knee on the front. So I think I'm going to get my triangle that's going to go in the side seam. I think I'm going to get it from both back legs. So that means the wide part of my triangle is going to be up here around the hip, and the skinny part of my triangle is going to be down at the bottom here. So first I'm just cutting off the elastic from these joggers. And then I think I'll just cut up both side seams. So I really am using these ones just as fabric now. I'm not really trying to salvage anything here. So with the side seams cut, now I can lay it with the two legs right side together. Okay, 29 inches plus a hem. I want about 1.25 inch hem, and so that's 30 1/4. If I get right down here at the bottom, and I'm kind of in the center of this section roughly, and then that brings me all the way down to here. So the width here is 8.5. That's the maximum width that I can get out of here. So from one side to the top of the triangle and the other side to the top of the triangle. And I've got it coming up right to a point. Alrighty, so you can see all of this malarkey from where the pocket was. And I will want to get rid of all my broken threads, but I might keep that little bit of a rectangle that was sewn there. I think it's part of the look. So what I'm going to sew first is I want to sew these triangles right side together with the front of the legs. So here's the front of my pant with the front pocket, and I just want to sew it to that edge right side together, leaving that little hem allowance sticking down. So I'm going to leave my 1.25 inches there. And I think I'll sew it with the black side up so that I can aim for the original stitch line. So then up here at the point, that point will just trail off, and I'm just going to sew right down there, no problem. Okay, so I got the pants all pinned and was heading to my machine, and I realized I was out of time. I had to go and catch a ferry and come over to see my friend Judy. So now I'm in Judy's sewing room, which is beautiful. And so now let's go to Judy's machine. So the olive or the camo piece is under there. It's tapering off to nothing, and I'm starting to sew right up here. If I don't connect to where it was sewn before, that is okay, because I'll get it on the second side of the triangle. And I know you'd be able to see better if I had the camo piece facing up, but I really want to see the line from where it was initially sewn, right? The previous line of stitching. So just bear with me for a second here. I'm not worried about all this fuzzy because I'm going to be serging it right off after this. But if you don't have a serger, you will just sew right in the same line and then zigzag your edge. No problem. Oh, good. You can see. No problem at all there, right? I kind of wobbled right in here, so I'm going to just catch that again, because I think it'll look funny on the outside if it's not sewn consistently in that line. And I don't even need to take out the first line of stitching because it's never going to show. So they're both sewn, and I think I'm just gonna jump right in and serge. Okay, serging down both sides now. Okay, oh, I love the way that looks. So now I've got it laying on the ironing board and I'm pushing the seam allowance toward the black. I think it just sits better and it looks better if the triangle looks like it's kind of coming under the black. Beautiful. So yeah, the seam allowance toward the jeans, like away from the triangle, going toward the pant leg. And trimming threads as I go. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so that side is in. This side is not sewn yet. And I was just consulting with my friend Judy, and she just does not want to be on camera today, so that is fine. But this is what we talked about. So this pocket is going to get sewn back on top of this triangle. But I don't want to have to deal with sewing inside a tube, right? Sewing the pocket on once this is closed up is going to be hard. So this is what I suggested that Susan did, and it worked out great for her too. So we're going to sew the pocket on first and then close that up. So the pocket kind of comes out of the back, right? I sewed the front seam first, and then we'll put the pocket on. And on mine, there's also a flap. So that, I was just talking to Judy, and she said, have the flap over, and so I can take that button and put it here. The flap's gonna go over, and so we both kind of liked that. But the part that Judy didn't like was this, where you can still see where it was originally sewn. Honestly, I wasn't even giving that a second thought. It doesn't bother me, but it bothers Judy. And she said if I sewed there and then it looks sort of like it's purposeful somehow, then she would like that better. So I'll do that. And then I'll come back to sew the pocket on, but I'll put a few pins in the pocket while I've got it placed at a reasonable height. I don't want to go up too high because then I lose too much of the pocket, right? So I think here is good. And I'm just sewing this kind of L shape, and then this edge gets caught into that back seam. So let me just put a few pins, and then I'll pin the other side and make sure they're both the same. I also want to make sure that the pocket is at a good angle. You know, it's not lining up, right? I don't want it lined up with the edge of the triangle because that's at an angle. I want it kind of looking perpendicular to the middle of the triangle. I think that looks fine. Okay, so I'll have to remove this button so that I can sew it to the outside here. Okay, I could put the flap in there and like have the whole pocket coming out, which is maybe a good way to go too, but Judy liked that better. I do value her opinion, so I'll go with that. Okay. To make sure that I've got the pockets level with each other, I've got the two legs back to back. So here's where I've pinned the one pocket, and I've got them laying out nice and even at the bottom. So they're back to back. The seam is lining up. So with them back to back, then I can just feel through where that corner is, and I can easily place them to be exactly the same. Good. I like that. So I'll remove this button. Okay, back to the machine. I'm just increasing my stitch length to 4, just so it mimics the bigger stitching that was originally here. And I get a nice clean pivot at the corner. And then the second line. That went really nicely, easy peasy, and look, that looks good. So these are the dots that Judy thinks I should sew on, and I think she's probably right. So if I had thought of it before, I would have been able to hide my back tack into that seam, like before I sewed this seam. But for now, I'm not going to take that apart. I'm just going to do a tiny back tack. Oh, this machine has a back tack on the dot like that. Isn't that good? Yeah, okay, Judy was right, That looks better. That back tack on a dot, it's a bit hard to get it to land exactly where you want it to land, so I don't want it on the black. Okay, that's fine. So now it's going to show like a bigger back tack. That's okay. Okay. Back it up one smidge and then do that. Okay, that'll do. Okay, that looks kind of cool. Well, I guess I better do these ones too. Okay, that looks cool. I like that. All right, other side just like that. Okay, so Judy and I are side by side crafting. I just want to show you what she's doing here. She makes these Christmas stockings, so personal and individualized. So this is for Sophia. So tell me what you've got going on there, Judy.
Oh, Sophia is my grand niece and she lives in Australia. So I'm doing all Canadian things on this side and I'll do Australian things on the other side.
Oh, cute. And look at, I love this Canada Goose. That's so beautiful. And you put the hat on and everything. And this is your partner, Cottie's.
Yeah. He was a hockey player and his team was the Lizards. So I had him playing with Santa and then we like to travel. So, and then that's our little car.
Oh, that's so, oh, the blue canoe.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful. They're so awesome. So I'm going to be sewing in those two lines of the flap. I'm not going to sew in here first. The way is paved for me, so I can just jump right in here. But I want to leave a space here so that I can sew this seam and then I'll finish off the flap. I just want to get as much connected now so that I don't have to struggle so much sewing inside the tube of the leg. And stitch length back up to 4. I'll stop midway through that triangle with just a little back tack. Okay, I like it. I like to do each step to both legs before I continue on. You might prefer to do one whole leg, make sure you like it. I find it keeps me more consistent if I do the step to both legs as I progress. That looks so good. I love it. So now closing up the leg, the second side of the triangle, I'm just going to be sewing in that original stitch line, keeping this one out of the way. So sewing in the original stitch line all the way down. So I never have to sew like around that point. So that's why it's not really too difficult to insert a triangle like this. So the pocket I want laying flat, but the flap I want to bring in and keep it out of my way. So I'll pin that out of the way. And at the bottom, I want that same 1 1/4 inches, 3 centimeters sticking out there. So can you see, like on this side, it's just going to seem like a normal seam. I'm just coming straight up as high as I can get back into that original seam. And that's going to complete the top of the point there. So I will be trimming off this excess pocket. I just want to make sure I'm happy before I start cutting that off. So that would mean that I better sew both legs and try it on before I serge here. So here I'm starting right at the top. It's just going to feel like a normal seam. Okay, I'm going to give them a try on. So I just tried them on. So I had both legs like this, right? With the flap coming over the back. And Judy and I both agreed it's better tucked in. So I've tucked that one in. It makes that nice clean line all the way down the back of the leg. So just a little changeroo there. I'm just going to open up a bit of the seam here so I can sew the rest of the flap back on and then close it up. No biggie. I've got the leg back inside out now and I'm just opening up a little bit more of the seam just to be able to sew the rest of that flap down just like that. That's going to be good. Okay, good. Then I can close up the rest of this seam and I'll trim that pocket off now that I'm confident and then serge. Okay, so this is a bit scary, but now I'm cutting off the excess bit of pocket. And I can also cut off that little bit of the triangle at the top. Okay, serge. So to serge, I'm starting just above the triangle and coming right down through. Again, it just seems like a normal seam. I'll go slow over where it's thick. Okay, for the hem, now I would prefer the hem to come in like that, right? Where I'm tucking everything into this piece, but I wanted my seam allowance going out to the black. So it's gonna be like that, which is just gonna have to do. So I'm gonna have a back tack there, which is gonna show on the black. Not my favorite, but I think that'll be okay. Ah, I just went right off. I didn't realize I had switched stitches. I accidentally nudged to move the needle over to the left, so that's why I went off. Some signs of struggle here where I had difficulty at the beginning, but I don't think I'm gonna let that worry me. Oh, you know what I forgot to do is increase my stitch length back to 4. I had accidentally switched around my settings just by nudging it with my elbow, and would have looked a little bit better with that longer stitch length, but I think we are okay. I'm gonna give that a final press, and then I'm ready to show you. And just like that, my jeans are done, and I love them so much. Thanks so much for coming over to Judy's with me, and until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.